BEPRO went on over a 500% run. Let's take a look and try to figure out where might be some buyback targets, assuming you've been taking profits on the way up or plan to do it soon. So this is Tuesday, August 24th, 2021, and turn it up to ×2 speed because you're about to get Timified. Let's get into it. Rule of thumb, not biased towards or against BEPRO, just the way it works across most altcoins, is if you go on a 500+% run, but less than 1,000+, typically that rule of thumb is you're going to see a 55% correction sooner than later, regardless of what Bitcoin does. So that's 562% up. If things were to correct 55% per the rule of thumb, that'd take things price of BEPRO back down under 0.008. I personally sold during the first rally and near the top of that first rally, although it did keep going and I didn't think it was going to, but I sold about right there, 0.008 on this spike up, assuming this wasn't going to happen. I was thinking it was going to come back down and then try it again. So I sold way too early. But I did sell profitably because most of the non-staked BEPRO that I bought in this box. Just over half. The other half I bought, or the other just less than half, I bought right at a penny. So my average price in was 0.007. I sold at 0.0088. Okay, 25% profit, that's not horrible. And then I moved it into POLK, thinking that BEPRO was going to to calm down, and I got about this much of the run out of POLK after selling at BEPRO. So my overall run, even though I sold way too early, I think my percentage increase was actually, no, it might not have been higher than all of BEPRO's. I might have actually about tied it here. So 166% versus how well I could have done in BEPRO. So what I'm trying to show you is selling too early is not that big of a deal. You can make the most of it as long as you grow it somewhere else in a time where things aren't getting ready to tank. So if this is my average in, about 0.007, could I have possibly done over about, let's say, 180%? If I would have sold the exact top, would have been 150. So overall, I did do slightly better. Given my average in price, I did do slightly better, having sold a little too early, moved it into another asset, and got a good gain out of that. Now, buyback points are going to be the same types of levels that I thought would have been resistances. Previous resistance equals future support. So you had a little bit of resistance right here. So that would be a logical spot. So let me zoom in here, show you what I'm doing here. Right here, see that nice wick up and then see all this support coming back down? All right. And that line, given that it was previous resistance and support, has a good shot at becoming support should price come back down and hit it. And lo and behold, that's right around the 55% mark. There's another big area of several wicks and a little activity out here, which did not form resistance, but it was an area of a little bit of trading volume. That target would be 53%. So I would say buyback targets for me personally would be between 0.008 and 0.007. If you can sell profitably up here, or even sell, you can buy back more. So let's say you have BEPRO right now that you bought at 2 cents. You're still at a small loss. Let's say if somebody in that boat, not you, but somebody in your exact situation, sold BEPRO at a loss, bought back down here after a 55% increase or decrease, you now have a lot more BEPRO. A lot more, even though you sold up here at a loss. It doesn't matter. So a lot of YouTubers and people on Reddit, you know, they say things like, it's not a loss if you don't sell. Well, I mean, if you do sell at a loss, you're going to have more BEPRO, assuming it does come back down here and correct, which is a fairly safe assumption at this point. So what do you want? Not to sell at a loss, or do you want more BEPRO without working for it, right? Yeah, I guess you work a little bit for it because you have to sell and you have to buy back, but without dumping more money into crypto. So those would be my two. I mean, those are my two most probable. Let's do a couple what ifs. I would say if Bitcoin does actually tank here, and this was a bull trap, BEPRO is going to hit that origin line again, and that'll bring it down in the 0.004 range, mid 0.004 range. That would be low targets, depending clearly on Bitcoin. But it's definitely a what if. And this box here, which it actually didn't prove as resistance, it blew past, used it as support. That would be another lower end target as well, which is coming in at about 0.0057 down to 0.0051. So those would be my targets, and those are my targets. I think I'm going to put in my limit buys here, probably too low. That's fine. And if I see Bitcoin forming a higher low, starting to charge back up, I will cancel those limit buy orders that are sitting there, and I will market buy BEPRO on the way up, as opposed to trying to snag something down, or as opposed to successfully snagging something lower, like down here where I'm going to put my order. So that's personally how I'm going to play it. Let's take a look to see what this means for BEPRO and, let's say, end of bull run targets, not end of year, because I don't think this bull run is going to end at the end of the year. I think the 4-year cycle is over. I made several videos on that. Personally, I think I might have been one of the folks who made that kind of a hot topic, or started to help it become a hot topic within crypto YouTube. So I was kind of an earlier video covering that thought that Bitcoin will move in waves, not 4-year cycles anymore. But so let's say May is an end of year or an end of bull run target for Bitcoin. I want to zoom out and take a look at what that might mean for BEPRO. So I have this line at May, so May next year, potential end of bull run. You have a kind of a cycle top here and a mid-cycle top here. Some type of top here and some type of top here. Major tops, maybe not cycle tops, but let's just go with those. I would safely assume BEPRO will not hold that angle of attack, because that's too aggressive. I don't think so. In May, if it kept that angle of attack, that'd be $10. Okay, so we can say BEPRO will not move this aggressively. That's not the line we're looking at. So let's try to make a channel to try to see where most of the trading volume during non-crazy down moves has been. So you had a ton of trading volume here. Lots of trading volume here and here. So I'm going to make a channel, kind of a projector, like a screen projector, right? So I would say BEPRO end of May will fall between these two origin lines right here. I think it'll probably fall in this channel of most traded area. And so because these origin lines will probably end up being close to working in May, if things are hot next May and not in a downturn, I would say BEPRO can hit 65 cents. And on the lower end, 27. So that's pretty good. So BEPRO can simply be non-aggressive until May. Let's say the 4-year cycle's ended, things go till May. If it just acts non-aggressively and has one single pop near the end, that's almost 30 cents. That's a non-aggressive trip through time up until next May. right? So if you wanted to get a more aggressive angle, which a few altcoins have done, they have gone above what I would have said is their channel, and they used it as support. Okay, BPRO by May could be over $1. It could be at $1.20 or $1.30 if it hit this line here, which is still lower, much lower than that angle of attack from high to high. It's not even close, right? So my upper end target for end of bull run target for BPRO would be about $1.30. That'd be my high end. My low end about 26, and my mid high end, or the middle, I would say somewhere around 65 cents. In all, between 27 cents and $1.30. I know that sounds like a huge range. However, I mean, just look, this is a huge range. And I'm actually taking a smaller section from here down to here. So what's bigger? Look. That circle. Actually, this circle is probably bigger because it's logarithmic. Look, see? Trick question. Actually, that one is bigger, Tim. It's logarithmic. So technically, these are bigger. But on this graph, it's not taking up a whole lot of space. So that would still be my guess. I think it's going to fall... see a market cycle top somewhere between these three parallel lines, regardless of when the market cycle ends. So if this market cycle goes till next October, those end of bull run targets could be as high as $3, and the low end being 65 cents. So this month that I'm in right here is October. So the longer it goes, the higher up my targets would go, which is tit for tat, because we had this huge downturn, which most likely is going to shove the cycle top out a little bit past January. That means we actually have more time to let things fly, as opposed to trying to get everything out of the way by December, January, right? So that is what I got for BPRO right now. So I'm going to start mixing POLK in with BPRO, because those two projects have stuff going on together. And if you all know of another asset and blockchain business with which BPRO is working pretty heavily, I can go ahead and include the charts of those coins in my BPRO analysis as well. All right, so POLK never got that big second pop, or that third pop. So let's go back to BPRO. A lot of coins behaved pretty similarly during this run up. You had, well, might not want to use this chart, it's a little dirty, but you had one pop here, a second pop. You had a consolidation, which POLK did, and POLK just did not break out. BPRO did. It went on another what percent run? A 51% run, not bad. So POLK moved very, very similarly alongside a lot of other altcoins, but POLK just didn't get that, to reiterate. So going back to POLK, which means I did not take profits way too early on my POLK. It was almost exactly on time. So you can see one pop, two pop, or maybe this was the first pop right here. First pop was big. Second pop, consolidation. This is where BPRO broke out, and POLK did not. Now, the downside targets for this, though, on a percentage basis, will likely be much less than what it was for BPRO. So this run went 250%, so below 300%, but above 150%. Typically, I say about a 40% correction from the wick top. So let's go 40% correction, and it hits where I have the most support. My biggest lines for POLK here are between 34 cents and 33 cents. Maybe even down to 32, because I would say this wick right here. I would say trying to buy POLK right around that wick might be a good option. So that's about 32 cents. So these, I mean, that'd be my buyback targets. I don't really have many more. If Bitcoin starts really making a lower high convincingly and starting to push back up towards 49K again, and POLK has only bounced off this top line and didn't hit my targets, I would just cancel those orders and then market buy to get my POLK back at a better price if my target's not hit. But yeah, there aren't very many targets. Honestly, I would just get rid of this line I have down here. And I would say, and I'd flip to the week just to make sure. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I want it. Up just a tiny bit higher, right there. So this would be the buyback zone for me personally. And from current price, you're still buying, more than 20% cheaper. So if Polk cannot hold that line, I'm safely guessing its next buyback zone, its next target for downside would be between these two wicks right here. So let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I'm on the daily chart, so it's a young asset using the weekly. You got to take with a grain of salt. It's a little harder to use the weekly on such a young asset. But anyway, so between these wicks here on the daily, see I have a lot of downside and a clear stop. So I would say between there and here. So I'm going to make another box between those two areas. I can't right click and take my brush off and stop painting all over my my trading view today. So I'm going to take to the wicks, or from the wicks down to these candle bodies. So these candle bodies here, these wicks right there, which is also wick in a lot of area of interest right here, which created support. So if I had to choose another downside target, and this has a chance, I would go like this. That has a chance to get price action on a wick, and then price bounces right back up. So let me show you what I'm thinking here. So this white line as a target would mean Polk comes down. It generally wants to hang out in this box, but then wicks down, comes back up, and then does find support there. That could end up being a really good buy spot based off these candle bodies. So I guess there is an intermediary possibility, which mostly means it only comes down to here, but visits this for maybe a day, comes back up. The same thing could happen in terms of this green box and this white line. Polk could really tank here if Bitcoin goes down to 33K or something like that. It could bounce off here, come back up, and rest and find support here. Something to that effect. And that would still be a massively higher low, right? And this would be essentially its first higher low. And that angle right there is a very common angle to create a firm higher low, as opposed to a very aggressively sloped line to connect lowest low to first higher low. So typically if you see something like this and you think that's going to be your first higher low after a big downturn, see how big this angle is? That's a big angle. I find that unlikely. I don't see that happen very often. Usually have it try to hold that, then it breaks down and it forms something more along the lines of maybe 45 degrees. And this first angle right here, so if this is 90, this is probably, yeah, so this is probably like 58 degrees or something like that. And that's pretty aggressive, maybe even more. That might have been 60 degrees. I haven't used a sliding compound miter saw in a while, so I'm eyeballing the angles. So I would say something natural from a structural standpoint. If I go 90 here, let's see here, try to get it. Oh, 45. So, yeah, that looks about right. Something to this effect for a bounce. And where would that align? Right at the bottom of one of my support areas. So if you want to take, I think there's a fancier tool than a line. You can do some type of projector. Let me see if I can do it real quickly here. There it is, projection. So you can take your projection and say, okay, top end, best bet there, and on the lower end, that much of an angle. And you can say, I think price will fall somewhere into here. And so when you're doing this, you also want it to make sense in terms of your horizontals. And then you can start looking about roughly what timing, right? So if it really starts tanking fast, that means in order to hit that projector, it has to go down farther, right? It's farther in price, much, much lower. But if it can hold strong and go sideways for a while, and then it drops, it will still meet both horizontals and that projector, but not go down nearly as low. Does that make sense? So in terms of timing and the speed with which something drops, that is a tool I haven't popped out in a while, but you might want to try that. And that projector tool is it's in the area where it says long position on the left side of a trading view. So I'm going to leave that there. And if I had to guess, I bet it hits so if this is a baseball bat, I bet it hits the end of the sweet zone. I would say right there. As a very, very low end, the best possible buyback, if I had to make one single guess. So that's what we got for Polk. I will go ahead and mix Veracity into this. So Veracity, not being biased for or against Veracity, 400% run. So not nearly as big as BEPRO's 580. So a general correction for something close to a 500% run. Again, it doesn't matter if you think Veracity is strong. This is just how it works. I'm telling you. There are very few exceptions to this, okay? So 400+% move, you're probably going to get a 45 to 50% correction. Now, last time I gave projections for Veracity's correction, it corrected on the lower end of my guesstimate, right? Instead of correcting 80%, it corrected 60%. So it is very possible in this 45 to 50% guesstimate that I'm making of a correction for Veracity that it actually holds slightly stronger and only corrects something like 40% or 38%. But that is, I still think that's unlikely, but it could do it because Veracity just did something similar. So it stayed a little stronger than my rule of thumb corrections for altcoins. But that 45% land, look where that comes to. A daily horizontal right here, boom, bada bang. And this was more of a sell target, so as opposed to a support. So for support, I would move it way down here. So this is the first line of defense. You'll probably get a bounce out of Veracity around at 2.5 cents, 2.4 cents. You're going to get a bounce there. However, my overall target would probably be, honestly, it looks like it's just going to hit this line perfectly. I'm not going to lie. That looks like a very easy buyback target. It almost makes too much sense. The idea that Veracity bounces off this target here is it could. I would still give it less than 20% chance, but it absolutely could. But my first most probable target would be here. My second most probable, I don't think it's going to go down that far. Instead of doing most probables, let's do based off Bitcoin movement. If Bitcoin goes all the way down to 32K or 33K, I would say here. If Bitcoin goes down to 30, some number like just under 35, I would say about here. Veracity would come to 1.67 cents. If Bitcoin dropped down to somewhere 33K land, I would say somewhere around 1.48 cents, 1.45, something like that. Next target would be 1.66 if Bitcoin went under 35K by a smidge. if Bitcoin corrects down to 38 to 36K land, I would say just under 2 cents. I think Veracity would pierce 2 cents in that area, or in that situation. However, Bitcoin really looks like it's going to hold strong above 40K. I'm not going to lie. It really does, which I'm a Bitcoin bull, so that's not a bad thing. But so Veracity's correction is probably going to be somewhere up here. I think this is by far the most probable target, given that I think that Bitcoin's eyeballs, as it's fallen down here, I think it's eyeballing 40K as a cloud from which to bounce. So, and I say cloud from which to bounce because it's going to be a significantly higher low. It could potentially be a very bullish higher low for Bitcoin. Keep it staying above 40K would be very, very good. And let's take a look at Veracity, though, for end of bull run targets, assuming May once again. Okay, so I'm going to assume May. I'm going to put it on the 2-day chart so I can see a little bit better. Wow. Wow. What a run. Okay, so let's make a line around May. There's an okay chance that I need more lines on top of this, maybe 2 more. That is possible. So because usually so let's say we are in mid-cycle, right? Which could be an incorrect statement. We could be going into a 12-month extended bear market right now, like as in this is the first red week among many to come. Maybe not consecutively, but out of 10, we could have several weeks of 10 where 7 candles are red for multiple sets of 10 weeks. But anyway, it is very possible that this ends up being the line that Veracity price hits to top out. That would take it at 40 to 41 cents. And from current price, that would be a 14x gain. From the bottom here, though, not total bottom, because you can't buy bottoms necessarily. Let's say somewhere around here, if you would have been buying Veracity at about 1.2 cents, that would be a 33x gain if that were to happen. And that's pretty reasonable. So let's go ahead and look at what that would mean for market cap and to make sure that's also reasonable. So 41 cents. I thought I had my water, my iced coffee next to me, but I don't. Okay. So there's 4.47 billion in circulation. Totally doable. What did I say, about 42 cents, something like that? Hundreds, thousands, millions. That's only 1.8 billion market cap. So during an end of cycle period for crypto, that's not very big. So I'm almost thinking that Veracity is gonna have, it could potentially have 2 more lines on top of it here. And I typically, as I get higher and higher, I try to make these lines closer together because it is logarithmic. So a much smaller distance is actually a much larger. So a small distance up here on the chart is a much larger distance than a much bigger area as we saw at the beginning of the video, right? So if you ever try doing origin lines, just kind of note that here, especially if you're adding on top. So I would add a couple here and just leave it like that. I mean, Verasity easily could, I mean, it could scream to 20 billion market cap, right? So Cardano, when it literally just was an idea with a white paper at that time, right? A lot of crypto, and I'm not picking on Cardano at all, rather, even Neo came into the space without much to show for it, mostly just white papers, ideas, a lot of excitement. And a lot of those, even Neo, I think, went up to 20 billion in that first run in 2017, having only been a cryptocurrency for a matter of months. Right. Same with Cardano. It went straight up to 20 billion. So I'm not saying I'm picking on Cardano or any of those projects. That's just how crappy crypto was. A bunch of companies coming out with literally just an idea and they put it on the internet and people are throwing money at it. But anyway, crypto's a lot better now. So if those projects, not just those two, but many projects in the space can go to 20 billion, right, without anything to show for, and I think Verasity would have a chance to do that. Do I think that that's what's going to happen? Let me be very clear. No, I'm not saying I think Verasity will hit a $20 billion market cap. I am saying specifically it could. And here is why, compared to altcoins in the past, right? Just to show that it's possible. So I've got so much flack about that 367 video when I also made that point I thought very clear, but maybe not clear enough. So I want to be very clear with this, but that's still not really that super crazy aggressive. So if it were to go to 20 billion market cap, divided by 4.47. What? 4.47 squared is 20? Awesome. We just found math. We found math. Interesting. That makes me think the Verasity team would like to see that. So what I'm looking at here is it has 4.47 billion coins in circulation. If the market cap gets to 20 billion, then the price will be the same minus, taking off about what would that be, like 8 zeros, but would be the same as the market cap, as expressed by 4.47 billion coins in circulation and the price of 4.47. That's pretty cool. that we can have our 367 for BEPRO and our 447 for Verasity. I mean, that's kind of weird. I might have just started something on accident, but let's roll with it. 447. Here we go. We got 367 for BEPRO. Gosh, why can't I plan things that cool, right? Like, why can't I plan to find math? So let's see how that stacks up here on this graph. So, something breaks all-time highs, chills out, goes on a run. Ooh, wow. So I might have to add a lot of lines. But that was a way upper end target. So I still think adding a couple lines here is still pretty reasonable targets because its market cap isn't out of this world, even for a first year type of coin. So, I mean, end of May 2022 targets for Verasity. I mean, I think $1.15 is reasonable and moderate of a guess, even though that means a 36x, or no, about a 32x. I think that with what this project has going on and as many chest pounders as they have, chest pounders not being a bad thing if you've been on my channel for a little bit, that seems pretty aggressive from this point to the end of the bull run, since it's already done so well. However, I think that's a reasonable / moderate guess for end of bull run target, with the one assumption that a bull run goes until May of next year. should Bitcoin top out, let's say, I mean, hell, in January, then the target would change slightly. Let me be very clear with what I'm saying. I would bring that down to less than half, about 55 cents here. So if things were to get super hot, Bitcoin, you know, goes screams up to 200K before January 5th or something, I would put Veracity at 55 cents for the end of this bull run, which in that sense, that means the 4-year cycles have a strong chance, or they did maintain themselves, but I don't see that happening. And so my understanding of Veracity, even though I don't go into much fundamentals, they patented proof of view, and it's the first business patent or business process patent in all of crypto, or one of the first patents in all of crypto. It might have been the very first. And what they're doing is their proof of view will help more efficiently, this is my very crude understanding, more efficiently pay content creators and / reward the viewers, as opposed to getting things spread out among middlemen and other companies, ironically, who might lose a bunch of customers because it might work so much better on different platforms. So that's kind of what it's in terms of ad revenue. That's what this is doing. And I don't know much about their proof of view and how revolutionary that is compared to current methodologies of collecting data for views, clicks, all that kind of stuff, and rewarding content creators for. I really don't know the major differences of what they have going on versus what happens now, but it seems like a pretty big idea, because the advertising industry, I mean, marketing industry in general, is a huge industry, massive. And if they could really, you know, shake some trees within that space using blockchain technology with a patent, it could lead to pretty big things for that company. And again, I don't even know if their proof of view is all that amazing. I really don't know. So you would have to do your own research on that, but that's the overall goal. It's in terms of it's using blockchain within a business to facilitate, I guess, ad revenue. Here we go. I don't know if I want to cover anything else. I might make another altcoin video on that. So typically I might do something like a BEPRO and a few other alts today. Moving forward, though, if altcoin season will start heating up, I'm going to try to clump a few together. I might keep BEPRO, POLK, and maybe Veracity together. Or if you leave me a comment down below, let me know, hey, you know, BEPRO's working with such and such companies. Maybe clump those together as a, you know, a BEPRO, like a super BEPRO video, almost like Walmart versus super Walmart. I can turn my BEPRO videos into a super Walmart and cover coins very specific to BEPRO, do an altcoin video, something to that effect. So leave me comments down below to let me know if anything should be tied to BEPRO videos. And then moving forward, I will do mostly altcoin videos, Bitcoin and Ethereum videos separately, and then BEPRO / whatever else you leave me comments. I might make 3 types of videos, maybe not 3 a day, but 3 one day, take a break, 3 another day, something to that effect. And that's what you can look forward to. If you liked what you saw, just leave me a thumbs up here. And if you're new and you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.